Simon Sort of Says by ERIN. Now, what caught my attention to this? Mainly because I only read Simon Says, and then I saw the fine print, Simon Sort of Says. So I instantly got kind of hooked by that as well too. Instead of me not wanting to read this book after seeing that, I thought it just wanted me to read it more. Also realizing that this was a Disney publication, that kind of added to the mix. Oh, and on the side, there's this picture of a satellite dish. So that also caught my attention as well too. Next up, what caught my attention is the blurb. Simon O'Keefe tells a lot of stories, like how his family was driven out of Omaha by alpacas, and how his church deacon dad has accidentally given a squirrel, a holy sacrament, and how his undertaker mom occasionally has to wrangle emus. Now, that does not seem like a typical American day. So of course I got hooked into this. But the story Simon doesn't tell is the one he'd do anything to forget. Ooh, that one was kind of juicy as well too. Simon is the only survivor of gun violence at his school. Oh, okay, that part's special. That story has followed him everywhere except his new home in the National Quiet Zone. The National Quiet Zone. By the way, that's an actual real place. It's where scientists have to go ahead and keep everything quiet. There's literally no Wi-Fi. No Wi-Fi allowed. There's also no TV, broadcast, anything, radio waves. Not even microwaves are allowed there. Because their point is to listen to radio waves from space. Simon meets a kid who wants to give the astronomers what they've been looking for, and he finally gets the chance to tell a new story about himself. So that part's really interesting. So be able to go ahead and shed your old identity and share yourself in a whole different light. Well, that instantly hooked me. That was an instant hook. So what's the story about anyway? So there's this kid named Simon. In fact, for the first few chapters, we don't even find out about gun violence. The only way we find out about gun violence immediately is the blurb at the back, which I think is a terrible way to start off the story because now you realize that this kid isn't special. Anyways, next part is that we also find out about the National Quiet Zone. That we also find out that Simon has a little bit of something called post-traumatic stress disorder. And also, how do we find out about this? It literally has a little content notice. It literally has a little content notice in the book. Now, how does this go ahead and affect how I read this book? Mainly went ahead and gave away the entire plot to me. In fact, after reading about the gun violence and the post-traumatic stress disorder and the little too revealing treehouse at the back of the book, I kind of realized that, okay, so this is just going to be about Simon's, a girl, a boy with purple hair. Yes, the hair is purple, if you haven't noticed. Purple hair and the gun violence, or at least post-traumatic stress disorder. The warning did say it wouldn't include any violence. So this is what I end up with. The cover itself is also pretty revealing by itself as well too. Let me just go ahead and push this down here. Well, it's me sitting right here. Anyways, the whole point of this is that Simon sort of goes ahead and talks about two things. Mainly about stress, which has been a pretty big indicator in my family recently. Well, forever. As well as a bunch of science, which for some reason includes radio telescopes, which is one of my favorite things to do. Except I don't have a radio telescope, so I just have to go ahead and look online for the radio telescope stuff. Anyways, regardless, we also find out about the National Quiet Zone, which sounds like a little bit of a demon place for Gen Alpha and Gen Z nowadays. You know why? Because they literally banned the internet. That's right, they banned the internet. Oh, and another thing. Microwaves are banned mainly because they are just weaker versions of radio waves. Which, basically, for Simon O'Keefe, that's the perfect place in the entire world. It's a place where he can escape his identity. Everywhere he went, anyone who just went ahead and googled up Simon O'Keefe, well, what would happen is that there would just be this picture with this caption by the police. It's a little photo sent by the police. It's where this little kid has his hands raised up with a bunch of dead bodies everywhere. And what Simon O'Keefe, how he describes that experience was, well, what happened was there was this shooter who came to my school. There was a lot of things happening. In fact, we all went and did the lockdown drills. We all hid in the cabinet. But the shooter went up 2 stairs and went into our classroom. And then suddenly there were too many kids in the cabinet. The cabinet burst open. All the kids fell out in one big heap of a pile. And so the shooter, being a shooter, rain gun on all of them. The shooter then committed suicide. What happened was this. No kid in that grade 4 classroom, no kid, no boy, no girl, not even a teacher survived. Well, there was just one kid that survived though. And that is Simon. What happened was this. He was lucky enough to land on the heap of everyone else on top of him. And he dodged through all the gunshots. While all the dead bodies were over there, he pretended to be dead so that the shooter wouldn't try to kill him. And then the shooter killed himself. The police came in, just draw them in blue. The police came in and they said, hands up. And then there was this one kid. One kid stood up. One kid stood up and raised up his hands. The shooter's dead. And they took a photo of this moment, and that's what made him famous. Ever since then, everywhere he went, there was someone who went ahead and reminded him. In fact, almost everyone in the school reminded him of a past that he didn't want to remember. So, what is the whole point of this book? Why should we learn from this book? Not why. What do we learn from this book? Also, why should you read it? That's the why question. What you learn from this book is that sometimes you actually have to think about other people as well too. Also, the badass moments of one of his friends, the guy with the little purple hair, and his mom is saying, "I want you to have choices, so go to the science fair or else." And then she says, "Well," then he just rejects whatever choices and says, "I wanted you to have choices. Why are you rejecting the choices?" "Well, if you want me to," and he tells his mom, "If you want me to have choices, well, then sometimes you're not going to like them." That's kind of true. A lot of mothers don't realize that, mainly because they think they know what's best for their kids, but their kids know themselves better, and usually their choices is what's going to shape their lives. Their mothers have no say in that, unfortunately for them. Haha. But hey, eventually they will try to guide you to the right path, and you might choose that right path. However, there are paths that you want to choose differently. Maybe you don't want to go to the state science fair. Maybe you don't want to go to the debate. Maybe you don't want to make Russian dolls. Or maybe you don't want to play violin. But whatever the case is, you're always going to learn something. Simon sort of says it's always there. You learn from it. And why should you read it? Well, post-traumatic stress disorder is one of the more important things, also one of the more common ones that happen here. Mainly because school shootings aren't the only things that cause post-stress trauma. Post-traumatic stress. But hey, what do you think about this anyway? It's a great book. It's worth reading. The whole book itself, it's supposed to be catchy. It's supposed to be about friendship and how friends can help you. And sometimes maybe when someone doesn't want to talk about something, maybe just don't talk about it. Maybe it is something important or too painful for them to talk about. But sometimes you just have to go ahead and face it. You can't run away forever. In fact, the strongest of us are the ones who went ahead and stood up towards our fear. The weakest of us were the ones who ran away from it. And with that, of course, that's what we learned from Simon Sort of Says. So in the end, this whole book itself, it's a blend of science, a blend of friendship and how it can help us, and also a blend of a person who can just go ahead and try to help you. And the understanding of people. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this book report. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And until next time, I'll see you guys soon. Until next time, shout out, peace. Bye-bye. One thing that wasn't mentioned in the video is that there's this peacock inside the book, and the peacock was featured right here. The mom is the one who strangled and wrestled with the peacock, by the way. Hope to see you guys soon. Until then, shout out, peace. Bye-bye.